Have you ever growled at someone at work?
I can't say that I have. Probably in my head.
Outside of work either.
Right. Well, I've done both, inside work and outside work.
Can we hear your growl?
Well, this one was, it was like that. That's kind of grunty. But
It is. It's good.
yeah, it was a growl. But oh gosh, one day I was in a meeting with my manager, and we're on a phone call with people wherever, probably corporate. And he growled. He got so upset, he growled. Right. And I was taken aback. He was like, "Roar, roar," like that. He did some noise like that, which stopped the people on the other end, like in their tracks. Right. Because, you have a human being growling at you in corporate. And so we get off the phone and, I'm kind of like, what the hell was that? Like that was interesting. And he was like, well, that's one of the things that I do. I growl sometimes or just grunt to show that, I'm upset or I'm exasperated or whatever. And it just kind of shocks the room and it kind of shakes things up a bit. And that was like his advice on like handling conflict.
Oh my God.
He's like, I'm just going to frickin' growl and let this shit work out. You know what I mean? But, he wasn't wrong. I mean, people were like, holy shit, like, I don't want to be growled at. Like, that's crazy. Like, he's so upset. What's he going to do next? He's growling. And then what is he going to slash me with his paw or something? So I was like, okay, well, that's some interesting advice on leadership. So later that day, no shit, I go into a meeting and for like maybe it was the second or third time, the senior executive throws me under the bus. And I am so upset. I'm dying inside and I'm cutting him with daggers. And I call him out because you're not going to throw me under the fucking bus with the head cheese here, and it just really upset me. And I was like, that's not how that happened. So-and-so, like, not at all. Like, just very corporate, like professional. So that head leader walks out, right? The meeting's over and all that remains, right, is just a couple of us that work intimately together, right? And, the bus thrower under starts turning to me and I'm like, wasn't in the mood. And I knew it was going to be disingenuous. I stand up and I walk past him and I go, and I growl right behind him. And he was like, oh my God. Like, he's like, oh my God. Like he like clutched his pearls and shit. I was like, like, like literally I took the growl advice the same day. And I thought that was like the stupidest. I mean, because he was being funny when he gave me the advice. Like he was serious, but not obviously, he was just, pissed off and didn't want to cuss somebody out. So he just growls. And so I used it that afternoon and it worked. It really did work.
I will use that today.
So it shut it down. He knew I was pissed. He later apologized. He never threw me under the bus again. I never trusted him again because I couldn't, obs. But yeah, just a little right there. Like it's going to keep you employed. You know what I'm saying? Like what I wanted to say was beep, 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 beep. I mean, I was that hot, right? And so I will do anything to try and stay employed like in that moment. 'Cause man, nothing like, you just feel like so horrific when someone throws you under the bus. It's like you saboteur, you traitor, like you just want to, So instead I was just like, like that, And so, I mean, people could have thought I was just clearing my throat. But another colleague of mine saw me and she was like, oh my God, she was dying laughing later, like, oh wow, like you growled. I was like, well, I took a play out of, and she's like, I know, I've heard him growl too. Now the whole workplace is barbaric. Everyone's just growling at each other,
I will be trying that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. So,
okay.
Yeah, if you need to pull out a growl.
Jamie, what's your growl?
Let me clear my throat. Whoa. That was pretty scary. I don't know if I'd go that hard.
That was Yeti.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could go that hard, like it'd have to be like, Because then HR would get the complaint, right? Jamie growled at me.
Yeah.
Jamie
Yeah.
barked. She didn't bark. I didn't bark. I growled. Thank you.
I sounded like a Yeti. Thank you.
Exactly. What's yours, Ashley?
I honestly, like, I've never done this before, and so I'm worried it's going to be like, meep,
Like I have.
beep, beep, meep.
No.
You
what
sound like
the?
No, okay.
Oh.
Let me try again. Okay, let me try again. That was like a car.
It's got to be guttural. That's the. Oh, wow. Okay.
That was a possum.
No, I'm like my face.
So Ashley can't growl.
You can't growl, girl?
I don't know. I realized I was
You're
like,
going to work on
You
that.
should practice that later because the stress relief. Oh, my God. Oh, that's good.
That was better.
And you had some shoulder action there too. I mean, doesn't that feel good though?
not really, honestly, because I felt like it was half-assed as I went through it. And as we know, I
Forced,
like to
yeah.
full-ass things. And so I'm in powered practice. Well, that was one of my questions to you is, did you have to practice beforehand? But it sounded very natural.
I mean, because you're angry.
Oh my God. Ashley, your husband's going to come up there and be like, are you okay?
Totally. Oh, that's right. Oh my God.
Yeah, but just give a little, it was better than me saying, fuck you, you traitorous bitch. Oh my gosh, like, oh, you bust her under and bitch. Oh,
shit.
so anyways, highly recommend just a little growl because it could be played off as allergies, but you got to get that out sometimes,
Have y'all seen the TikToks of women getting harassed by a guy and they say to bark at them?
Oh, but basically same.
This should be the new trend. Growl at them.
That is great.
Yeah, growl at your coworkers when they.
Like, hey girl, hey, you got a boyfriend? Hey.
That's a chihuahua. Oh, gosh. Well, that's some hot goss, isn't it, for today? Man, that water cooler's lit.
If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One thing I love about Indeed is it makes the hiring process easy by having it all in one place. I can direct message with the candidate while looking at their resume, even schedule an interview. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use it, the better Indeed gets. Join the more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibilities at Indeed.com/HRBesties. Just go to Indeed.com/HRBesties right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on our podcast. Indeed.com/HRBesties. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com. For whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Well, let's go ahead and kick off this meeting, shall we? Let's see, what is first on our agenda? It's always our cringe corporate speak. God, we love it. But Jamie is going to bring that to us today. And then we are going to dive into our hot topic of this meeting, and that is all things establishing healthy boundaries and perhaps even keeping healthy boundaries, maybe some best practices. That's always nice. And then, of course, per usual, questions and comments for the end. Jamie, what do you got for us?
So today's cringe corporate speak is above my pay grade. And I know I am guilty of using this. And I've used it in the sense that HR probably shouldn't, to be completely honest, but it's when someone comes into my office and they're complaining over something maybe I don't have control over. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's above my pay grade. Or maybe I'm in a meeting that I probably didn't need to be invited to. And, people are trying to clue me in and ask me questions that I can't answer. And I'm like, that's above my pay grade. Pay me more. Maybe I can answer it. Hey!
I don't say this one. Not for any reason. I just don't think it's, it hasn't been in a culture I've been in,
I'm trying to think if I've said it. I mean, I've definitely heard it. It's kind of like a glorified-ish version of "it is what it is," where it's, pointing to some abstract thing. Yeah. And it can be a way to be relatable to somebody else of like, I can't, it's above my pay grade. I can't decide that. And it can help and humanize you a bit. So I do think in HR in particular, but from a manager, if like your manager is saying like, well, that's above my pay grade, then I think the natural follow-up question is then, okay, please allow me to go speak to the next pay grade person because I need an answer to this and that is not going to solve it. So that's, I think if you're a manager saying this to your direct report, then you are.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. And sometimes I think a better way to say it is, in that instance, is to say, whether you say more corporate speak of like there's stakeholders involved, blah, 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 or you talk like a more,
oh, no,
real
not
person and say, I can't make that decision on my own, but what I can do is talk to XYZ. Or if you know what the answer is going to be and saying, this is it, we can talk through and be clear with someone. So owning the aspects that you can.
Yeah, like I've always used it in the cheeky sense. Like I remember one time we did not have vending machines in the office and we did not provide any snacks. And this is pre-pandemic. So this is, you were in the office 5 days a week. And I remember someone complaining, well, we should really get vending machines or snacks, blah, blah, like complaining. And I'd be like, that's above my pay grade. Go talk to my boss. She's not going to give us the budget for snacks.
Yeah. See, I do take it as can't help you.
Yeah. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is like a good cheeky response that I've definitely used it in that sense.
Oh, gosh. I bet it has its roots like military.
It's a good call out.
I'm going to look at a whole.
Like so many of our vernacular,
So like intimate relations or military tend to be the corporate. Oh, you're right. Yeah. That's supposedly, which is fine. Originated in the American military in the 1960s as a term denoting a decision that required a higher authority. And by higher authority, you mean like the director, not God, but an officer.
An officer.
Pray.
Somebody.
Someone, can I get some vending machines? Go to God. Go to God and ask. And
go to the CEO and ask.
Pray for your vending machines.
Exactly.
Yeah, they were really, now that I think back of it, they were so weird about not allowing us to have vending machines or provide snacks to employees. Like now that I'm thinking about it, it's really weird.
They were weird or just cheap.
Like I remember having a whole ass snack drawer.
Oh, like your hidden snacks.
Yeah, well, for my own. I mean, I shared, but
exactly, and then to
because,
give it in. Well, that's a good pay grade then.
Have you used Shopify? Shopify is the global commerce platform that can help you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real life store stage, to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage, Shopify's there to help you grow. And I know that firsthand because as a digital creator, I have some swag and merch. And guess what? It was Shopify that helped me put it out there. That's right. I've got your back with a t-shirt that says, not a question, but a quick comment. And Shopify has my back to help get that t-shirt directly to you. Shopify gives me everything I need to take control of my business and take it to the next level. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/HRBesties, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/HRBesties now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/HRBesties.
I remember when I first got access to the internet. And Lord knows who I was actually talking to in those AOL chat rooms. And I didn't grow up with internet the way the kids have it today, and I can only imagine what it's like for them. Who knows what they're seeing on social media, what music videos they're looking up. It's kind of unnerving to think of everything they can do from their phones now, which is why I want to tell you about a lifesaver for both parents and children, Gab. Gab is the leader in safe smartphones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens. With no social media apps, no internet browser, and GPS tracking, Gab devices were built from the ground up specifically for kids and teens and are the way to keep kids safely connected. And Gab phones and watches are still tech kids actually want. There's unlimited text and talk, a clean music streaming app, and over 100 third party apps that can be installed at parents' discretion. Other safe devices or parental controls let you know what's already been accessed, but Gab's phones and watches are built with smart filtration that proactively blocks harmful content before it ever even reaches your child. I got my 7-year-old the Gab watch. It's literally attached to him so he can't lose it. Also, I personally love the GPS tracking so I always know where he is. I don't let him go far anyway, but if he says he's going to ride the bike to the neighbor's house, I like to check it. Okay, maybe I'm a helicopter mom. That's why I really think Gab is a game changer, and I can't recommend it enough. And you need to give them a try. It's absolutely best time to check them out because right now, Gab is offering $25 off any device to new customers with no contract required. That's $25 off Gab smartphone or smartwatch. Just go to gab.com/hrbesties. That's where you're going to get your best deal. That's Gab, GABB.com/hrbesties. Gab.com/hrbesties.
Oh gosh. Well, shall we pivot? Let's charge forward here and address the subject at hand, our hot topic of today, all things establishing and keeping healthy boundaries. What do healthy boundaries mean to you all?
I think for me, I've had to learn what my personal boundaries are over time. And I think that's one thing that can help in your career, Quilt, figuring out what are the things that you specifically need. And I think a lot of us have seasons in our careers where there may be times where, for me, my kids were little and I really needed, that's when I moved to take a job where I was working only 8 to 5 and my boss said affirmatively, you are not expected to work on the weekends, not expected to work at nights. And so sometimes people will say there's no such thing as work-life balance. I absolutely had work-life balance. I did not think about work outside of work unless I thought about it in a positive way with colleagues. And that was a very affirmative boundary and balance. And I had that because my coworker had established that. And she had been having at that time kids. And I think that can be something that really changes what people's boundaries are. But even people, whether, whatever you have, whatever your family, your personal life looks like, sometimes you go through a period and you're like, I need more of that separation. And so for me, and it's been harder as I have my own business because, you have a lot more hats, but having some of those boundaries, like when I shut my computer and I don't look at things. And so I've needed to have very physical and rigid boundaries for my life, in part because I had that and it had a profound impact on who I was at work, outside of work, and who I was to my friends and family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Healthy boundaries for me are just those lines that you draw to protect you, your values, your priorities, what means the most to you. And I can remember a time when I had no boundaries. And then, of course, continuously, I was exploited or trampled on or disrespected at work. And then over time, right, they started to evolve and they started to form. And now I have a shit ton of boundaries. And so, it's funny if you're sitting there and you're like, well, gosh, I don't even have any healthy boundaries established. Perhaps you haven't had trampled on boundaries or you haven't, you know what I mean? Maybe you didn't have to establish them. It almost feels like we establish these out of necessity a lot of times, because it's one of those areas we don't proactively think about, you know what I mean? We just start doing and then, we start creating these things. But for me, creating healthy boundaries was almost like a life or death sort of situation. You could really, really lose yourself. And work, right? And you can lose the things you love And so you have to, really focus on self-care, your priorities, what matters to you, and make that clear, right? So that others can respect those lines too.
And not only that is like, there's so many different boundaries too, right? So it's physical, emotional, mental, professional boundaries that work can kind of creep in on. And I think, especially when I was early on in my career, I didn't understand that I needed to have those. I was new in the workforce, and it really wasn't until I was, like you said, Leigh, exploited, and you don't receive additional pay or praise or anything necessarily for that, right? So what are those healthy boundaries look like for me now than they did maybe 20 years ago? Well, they're different things, right? I think especially with the increased post-pandemic work life, we have our computers with us, right? Like we might be working from home, we might be remote, but we're taking our laptops everywhere. Where even 20 years ago, I didn't have that capability per se, and at least in my first job. So that wasn't even a thing. Or even phones. Like now I have, my Teams and my Outlook on my phone. So someone could message me at 7:00 at night and I'm going to see it and I'm probably going to respond. So it's even myself having to recondition my brain and be like, and I know I've said this in an episode recently, but in HR, there's not emergencies. So can this wait till the morning? I always do try to think about it in the perspective too, being in HR is the employee. They might be worrying about something. So, open enrollment, for instance. Let's say you have a question about benefits and you happen to be sitting down right now with your spouse and it's 7:00 at night and you need an answer or you'd like an answer. I'm going to respond to you. That's a boundary that I probably need to stake, but I have not. Another boundary that I created a couple years ago is I do not provide my personal cell phone number. I asked the company to either provide me with a cell phone, which I'd prefer not to have, or just have like a WebEx or phone number, because I do not give my personal cell phone out because I have been harassed by employees that were, left, terminated. So like that's a boundary for me. But I'm not very good with boundaries because I am like Ashley, have that yes face. And I do want to help you. And I want to go out of my way to help you, even if it's an inconvenience for me. And I know this pisses my husband off, but I always try to think about it in the mindset of the employee asking me the question or the leader needing this information. Like, can it wait till the morning? Question mark.
The overarching that you talked about, Jamie, and is that you care. And that's a really important characteristic of HR across the board, no matter what your role is to care and care about the people. But figuring out what your boundaries look like, and to your point, Jamie, I think a lot of people go throughout their careers and they don't realize it, or things happen. They're certainly not thinking in terms. And so we have a newsletter with the podcast. Every Wednesday we put out, newsletter talking about, we also include discussion guide questions for your team. One thing that I'll include in this week's newsletter, it's our collective newsletter, that will include is questions to ask yourself to think about boundaries if you've never thought about them. And some of those, to your point, Jamie, are different ones about working time, ability, is someone's your boss calling you during dinner constantly, or how people speak with you and communicate and how you speak with others. And so really just some questions to think about those boundaries, because if you haven't, and I think a lot of people get in this where they're like, we've used the analogy of a frog boiling water, but like you turn it up a degree, and all of a sudden you're like, I can't do this, and no matter what your role is. And so being able to ideally go to your boss and say, I've had, an epiphany or a feeling, like I feel like I have given up a lot of aspects of myself. And sometimes it's talking to your boss, meeting them where they are, saying, I'm not able to perform as well as I would because there's ways that I've been working that I have to change that I think will actually help me be a better employee. I want to have a long-term career here and actually be able to recharge outside of work. So if you phrase things in those ways and constantly say your job as an employee should not be to do your manager's job for them, but people don't always realize the stress or feelings in your head until you tell them. And so if you can tell them in a way that they hear, it's really hard as a manager to be like, no, if someone's telling you I can perform better and I want to live my life better outside of work, here are some of my ideas and can we talk about these? It's a lot harder for them to say no than if you just go to your boss and say, I'm burnt out, this isn't working. Okay, well, you're going to probably have the same conversation, but if you can take some of those steps and show them and thread that needle. And so we do encourage everyone to think about what those boundaries are for you, because, some people, your boundary is those after hours communications. You probably hear it in my voice. That's a huge one for me. And so articulating what that looks like and how you can get your job done within those.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the case, at work and in life that we are constantly teaching people how to treat us. And so, what Ashley is referencing really about communication, that is very key for me. So whenever I start a new job, this is one of my best practices. Whenever I start a new job and I'm having my get-to-knows, my intro meetings, my one-on-ones with all my leaders that I'm supporting, my team, whatever, I always ask, how do you appreciate being communicated to? Because I want to respect that. And I give them the opportunity to share with me. A lot of times they're taken aback, but I give them the opportunity first to share with me. Oh gosh, well, I hate text. I love email. I like Raven. Send something by pigeon carrier, whatever, like whatever it is, right? Like tell me about that, because that is probably 75% of boundaries. It's like with communications in some sense, right? Which then, of course, opens the floor for me to share, right? I'm showing such interest and they look like and they look like such jerks if they weren't like, well, what about you, right? If they don't, I say, well, now let me share with you how I like to be communicated to. Right. And these are my boundaries. So just being open about those things is very important. As hard as it is, Jamie gives a great example of not responding after hours. I remember joining an organization where they did not work after 4. And of course, I'd come from a place that was very, very global and on 24/7. I mean, I had teams everywhere, China, you name it, right? Just other side of the world sort of thing. So, you kind of have to be responsive or take late meetings. And my propensity, of course, was to do email at 9 or, do something late, right? Or when I was used to working. But it's important that you meet an organization where it is and honor that culture too that the organization has. And so I stopped immediately. I would not respond. I wouldn't do emails late. They weren't sending me emails late, but I wasn't sending my to-dos or actions out late either, right? I just respected kind of that working time and that boundary that so many had set within the organization, right? And so, it's one thing to have boundaries and want them respected, but you kind of have to do the same thing as well. And I remember we had somebody new start in that organization, and they sent me an email at 8 the next day. They're like, where the hell were you? And I was like, well, I was doing other priorities. And that's a boundary of mine. If something's not urgent, which Jamie's right. I mean, 99% of what we do is not, at least in this field, then, we wait till the next day and just have that kind of candid conversation, right? I have this boundary and I do it for you too, employee. I want you to be able to have your priorities. So by me respecting mine and you seeing that, it's safe and you're free to do the same thing. And that's why I'm like, Jamie, reconsider responding late, because it's the actions that are really showing so much, that people feel a little safer themselves to prioritize what they need to.
Yeah, and I think me as a leader, I'm very conscientious of it, right? And I'm thoughtful about it. So if I'm on, like, Last night I was on trying to get a report to work and spit out what I needed it to spit out. And I was on till 7:30 last night. And if I'm sending emails though to my team, I'm going to delay send them. They're not going to get them till 8 a.m. the next morning because I don't want, though my bubble might show green or, I don't want you to know that I was on till 7:30. I want to be mindful that you might be sitting on the couch enjoying your Netflix bin and then bing, your boss is emailing you at 7:30 at night about something that isn't important. I remember one job, this was pre-pandemic too, and she would get up every morning around 2 or 3 in the morning and fire off emails. Fire them. And so I usually wouldn't see them till I got in the next day around 7. But there would be like 10 emails from her, just like almost like verbal processing, but shooting emails out. And I remember how much it used to stress me when I'd, queue up my computer and see all these emails from her at 2 or 3 in the morning. And the funny part is she wouldn't actually walk in the office till like 10 every day. So like I felt like I had to respond to these emails immediately when I walked in the door at 7, like start responding. And that was always just so, it really kicked in my anxiety. So I think that's why I now am very conscientious. I also, one thing that I do too is working in different organizations where, you might be spread across the country or globally. I add as many time zones as I can to my Outlook calendar just to kind of be mindful of what time it might be in other areas. Now, obviously, sometimes you can't capture if it was a lot of people on an email chain, but if one of your team members is in California and they're 3 hours behind you, being mindful of not only scheduling meetings, but also sending emails. One thing too, I do, this is not urgent. Sending this to you now, this is not urgent.
Those are good. I didn't even think about the time zone thing in Outlook. Like that's next level.
Well, and I think also with time zones is thinking about the audience that you're speaking to and speaking to their time zone, as opposed to one, being clear about the time zone, because that happens constantly about saying this. And you're assuming everyone is. And when you have people in a variety of time zones, like, okay, you may have to pick a central one, whether it's central time or otherwise. But so Leigh and Jamie, so we set things up and record. I'm in Eastern time. They're both in Central time. So I generally will send things based in CT and say, blah, 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 CT. Sometimes we have, those hilarious mix-ups that happen, but I try to speak to their time zone. And I think especially when you are a senior leader is one, recognizing if you speak to a junior person's time zone, that sends some real signals about your thought for that person that count a lot more than you think, but also that aspect of you reaching out to colleagues on the weekend. And when it's not urgent, which often it's not, you are totally getting in their headspace.
Yeah.
And you may not realize it. And people, I make videos on this, and I actually think this is probably the most divisive subject, but it's people's choice whether to look at it or not. And it's not people Jamie has a habit of looking at things. And if you're a manager teaching your team the practices and people, that's condescending. Hell to the no. I would rather have a manager tell me, not only are you not when I've had a manager, you're not expected to work after hours. And it's fine if you want to, whatever you want to do, if you want to take email off your phone. I have, that time, they had my personal cell phones. Like if something were a true emergency or like this, I would reach out to you, whatever that looks like. People generally would take that 10 times out of 10. I'm in HR. So of course I love fall and everything pumpkin spice. But I'm not ready for fall because I don't have my fall wardrobe yet. If you're in the same boat and love a good seasonal shift, Quince makes it so much easier. Their pieces are timeless, high quality, and affordable, so your tears aren't about your credit card bill. They're happy tears over how beautiful the leaves changing are in your new cozy sweater, or a washable silk top that you can wear for work and not worry about spilling coffee. But here's the best part. Quince partners directly with top factories, cutting out the middleman and passing the savings on to us. Plus, they only work with factories that follow safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. So not only can we score major deals, but also support good practices. A win-win. Okay, now I'm going to get my pumpkin spice candles out. But before I do, make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/HRBesties for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/HRBesties to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/HRBesties.
How long have these meal kits been in my fridge? 1 week? 2? How much am I spending on these? Hey, Erica, did my subscription go up?
When your questions about life turn into questions about money, there's Erica, the virtual financial assistant to help you spend, save, and plan smarter. Only from Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
God, I've coached so many leaders on that. I remember having one saying, just kind of what you just said, Ashley. He was like, well, everyone's, they're all big boys and girls. We're all big boys and girls. We can all figure this out and do whatever. And I remember saying something cheeky back, like, you're not one of the boys or the girls. Like, you're the leader. Okay. Like, so you have to really take care and share those expectations and be transparent and be communicative and stop yourself from selfishly checking off your to-do list.
Yeah. That's true.
At the sake of the safety or the experience of your team. Right. Oh, man, I could just preach forever on that one. That one pisses me off. Servant leadership.
Yeah. Like, sorry, this is above my paid grade.
Oh, there you go. There we go. All right. Now, how do you keep healthy boundaries? Any quick best practices?
A huge part is in leadership of echoing these and talking about these and not have this been a one and done thing. When people start talking about them, but periodically in team meetings, bringing up and saying, how do we, like, do you have things creep up or habits that you establish and then you walk back from them? How can you keep those up?
I think also establishing some of those in the interview process. So for instance, for me, I don't want to be going to an office anymore. And so if the role's hybrid, like, I'm giving you 2 days max, fuckers. So some, maybe establishing some of those, from the jump, so they know what to expect. Look, I've worked in 24/7 industries before, and it is different, but that still does not mean that I'm a 24/7 employee. So making sure that's clear. I know shit happens after hours. I know that, but truthfully, do you need me, or can this wait?
I think job postings often can be longer to have those details and be very clear so people can self-select at the get-go. And certain things, like to Jamie, like, there's generally not emergencies in HR. Some of that exception might be if there's like a factory environment or a warehouse in people, there's coverage, and people, like a HR person is expected to be on call once a week or something like that, putting that in the job description and saying, for the support and safety of our team members, and explaining what that is and the why, and let people choose whether to apply for your role, but knowing that information before they've moved things around and called out sick to get on that screening call. I love that, Jamie.
Yeah, that is good. I love that too. For me, how do you keep healthy boundaries? By your choice and decision, right? So you don't lose your healthy boundaries. You give them away.
Yeah.
Right? So no one can take them from you. So if you're in an organization that doesn't respect them, find a new organization, because there's one out there that will respect them. All right. Thank you so much for that riveting discussion here on this meeting. What a hot topic. Sizzle. I don't know why I did that. Sound effects. It's a sound effects episode. Any questions or comments?
I have one I was thinking. Because some of what I was thinking is sometimes, like, language is powerful, and sometimes the word boundaries. Like, if you're coming into an organization and you're like, I'll tell you what my boundaries are, there is, I think, a negative connotation to that, in that it kind of puts someone on their heels. And so do you all have another word that you'd ever recommend to use instead of boundaries that gets to the same point, but sounds a bit more collegial?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I don't think I've ever said, these are my boundaries. Instead, kind of as I shared, I'm like, here's how I like being communicated to.
Right, exactly.
So I talk about the concepts of what the boundaries are, right? Here's what I prioritize outside of work. Here's what I do. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know that I have a replacement word for boundaries. I just don't even think I say it like that explicitly, to be honest.
I'm like, here's my list of shit. Here's my laundry list of shit don't fucking do.
Exactly.
Respect that. Like I was thinking, as we were talking, I was trying to think about this. And I was thinking like, right. I like the way you say it of like, these are the ways that, and this is going to be a lot longer than boundaries, but like, these are the ways that I show up best to work. These are the ways I'm able to recharge outside of work and still get my job done well. Also, if you want to have a short phrase, like my personal best practices, certain things like that.
I love that. My work style, even like you can talk in that sort of.
Yeah, it works. It works.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Don't fucking talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't email me. Don't even think about me after work hours. Okay, thanks.
People are like, damn, how Jamie? People love that Jamie. People got
Jamie, damn.
That's me. The whimper.
Oh gosh. Jamie, is that your comment? Any questions or comments?
I just want to say, don't be afraid to voice your boundaries and, use a different word, but don't be afraid, because if the company does not accept them, then that's not the company and the fit for you.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. I love that. Not a question, but a comment for me. And it's really along the same line Jamie has. There is that having boundaries doesn't mean you're saying no all the time, right? I mean, and to Ashley's previous point, how it's got this negative connotation to it. You're not saying no to anything. You're just saying yes to you. And that is so important, because if you are not saying yes to you first and prioritizing you can't give anything. There's nothing left to give to anybody else. Mm-hmm. So that's why boundaries, practicing self-care, right? Just preserving who you are is so important so that you can give some of that away, which is a gift.
Love it. Mic drop.
That's all I have. Mic drop, mic drop.
Yes to you. Hashtag yes to you.
All right, besties. You better, if you don't got them yet, you better establish those healthy boundaries and respect them first so that others can respect them too. All right. Bye, besties.